all, we want to thank you so much for coming. Truly appreciate you taking the time to come a little earlier to the chapter meeting and to join economic development for our first workshop. Today's workshop is going to be on savings, and your co-chairs for this year are Sheila Wilkerson Sanders and myself, Flora D. Once you signed in, there were handouts for you, so hopefully you obtained a copy of the budget. There's also a little yellow card we'd like for you to pick up as well, and then we're just going to talk through everything with you. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, Sora, so our first workshop, we're asking you to join us on this financial road, because at the end of the day, Soras, we need to be financially successful as well as physically, mentally, and spiritually. So the first thing we need to think about is we need to think about goals. And so many of us do not bother putting together goals for ourselves because we think those are things that we should do when we're at work, when we're in the job. But understand that we do also have to run our lives and run our homes in that same manner. So when we think about goals, first of all, we have to change our mindset, because goals are going to give you something to strive for, okay? You're going to have to redevelop your way of thinking, and as you redevelop that way of thinking, your entire life is going to change. You're going to redefine your purpose, and so your purpose is no longer going to be waiting for that paycheck every 2 weeks so that you can go and shop. When you receive that paycheck, you're already going to have a plan in place as to what you're going to do with it. Buy your groceries, buy your essentials, save, tithe, pay your maintenance and DST, those wonderful things like that, okay? And when you are actually when we go through that process, you're going to actually feel more empowered. You're going to actually be in control of your money as opposed to your money being in control of you. Okay, so you're going to have some homework, and then there's going to be some wrap-up. So we're going to walk you through. Don't think you're going to be on this road by yourself. We will be with you every step of the way.
All right, so Soars, you know, whenever anyone thinks about having money and all, people always say, I'm sure most of you say, if I just had $1 million, life would be so wonderful. How many of you have said that? All right, those that raise their hand, they're lying. You know what I'm saying. But what I have found over time, and what I teach in my wealth building classes, is that happiness has very little to do about money. It really has to do with having balance and peace in your life. And so, you know, it's about having everything in equal balance, okay? So, if you have, and let's use finances since we're talking about savings, if you have debt or worries about finances, then you spend most of your time worrying about money. And so, if you're worrying about money, then something else suffers. Either your relationship with your family or your friends suffers, or your spiritual relationship suffers, or if you're involved in school, your intellectual side or learning just in life will suffer. So if you're worried about finances, then if you think of it as a pie, and basically there's 5 things that are involved in your 5 major components of your life. There's the financial piece, okay? There's the emotional piece, there's the intellectual piece, the spiritual piece, and the relational piece. So if you're worried about finances, something else is going to suffer. So you think about it, that pie, that financial piece is taking up a larger part of that pie. So something else is going to be out of balance as a result of that. Am I making sense? Yeah. So what you want is, you want everything in perfect balance. And so when you have everything in perfect balance, if you don't have $1 million, it's okay, because you're happy. You're not worrying about where the next paycheck is going to come from, because the money's already in the bank. And so that's what we're going to work on this year, is to getting you to the point that you're not stressing about finances. And at the same time, we hope that you work on those other pieces so that you have peace of mind. That's what it's all about, is having that peace of mind. Okay?
Okay, so let's move forward. Now, there's this thing called financial bondage. I'm sure you probably have heard it. Unfortunately, some of us have probably experienced it. Okay? But there's so much anxiety related to this issue of money. I mean, there's those things that come out of it. The first one is stress. And we know that stress impacts all of us in different ways. It could impact us physically. It could impact us emotionally. And then, unfortunately, sometimes that stress may move forward onto depression. Depression, not being able to actually go to your job and work to make that paycheck. Depression, not being able to function at home, to cook dinner, to enjoy your family, to enjoy your own quiet time. And unfortunately, when we have these issues of anxiety, we can't really think clearly. So we can't figure out what we need to do next. We can't plan. We are just pretty much in a fog or in a limbo. And when all of that happens, we are pretty much at a standstill. We have a lack of a desire to move forward. We have, in most cases, no desire to do anything at all. And so unfortunately, our friendships suffer, our families suffer, and sometimes our faith suffers as well. And so we have to think about these things. And if you now pay attention to where you are in your life today, as opposed to maybe where you were 5 or 6 years ago, some of these issues may really exist in your life. Because a lot of us, our lives have changed considerably. A lot of sorors have been laid off. A lot of sorors have had to accept employment at a lower pay scale, maybe even positions that they don't want to do. But we just need to find a way to keep going. And so at the end of the day, we want to figure out now, we know we need to have a plan. Because if we just continue to move forward every day and there's nothing for us to strive forward, then if you notice that you probably don't move much at all, when you keep saying, you know, on January 1st, we all make those wonderful commitments. I'm going to be slave, I'm going to save money, I'm going to tithe. But if we just say it and we don't actually put a plan in place, you know, at the same time next year, we're going to be singing that same song and nothing has happened. We're still at the weight that we were at. Financially, we're still struggling. We're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And so we physically really need to sit down and make a plan. And we need to establish realistic time frames. Let's just not say that I'm going to become financially independent soon. Soon isn't going to get it. We need to have a specific date. You need something to strive for. We need to do long-term goals and short-term goals. Now, some of us are not quite understanding the difference between the short-term goal and the long-term goal. And so when we set those long-term goals, we become overwhelmed. And then what happens? We don't even think about them anymore, and they are 9 times out of 10 are not achieved. But if we simply take that long-term goal and break it down into little bites, and they become our short-term goals, 9 times out of 10 we can reach the long-term goals. Okay? We need to, as best we can, we need to stay focused. Now we know things happen on the job, we know that things happen with the family, and so unfortunately, we become unfocused. Sometimes we veer off that path. But as long as we have a plan, if we work towards it, we can really get back to it. But we need to have something to strive for. The first thing that we always recommend is that we need to be accountable to ourselves. We need to be accountable for what we do and for what we don't do. Okay? We need to develop our own individual financial plan. You need to have financial goals. You need to, believe it or not, you need to prepare a budget. Now, we talked about this last year when we started talking about Centennial. And we were like, we're going to save so much money and we're going to do this. But did you actually put together a plan? Did you actually write something down to say, this is how much I bring in, this is how much I spend out, this is how much I can truly put aside for Centennial? I'm going to say probably 90–95% of us did not do that. So it's not too late. It is never too late. You don't have to wait till January 1st. We can actually start now. One thing that I have found is a true eye-opener, and a lot of people agree, is that if you take the time to write down everything you spend just for 1 month, it'll knock your socks off. Looking at those little things we do, you know, we go to the grocery store and we went in there for 5 things, we came out with 5 bags. You know, we stop and get gas and we pick up a cupcake and a cookie and, you know, a big goal. We start writing those things down and looking at them. Looking in the mirror is a very hard thing to do. But it's a reality check, and it's something that we need to start doing right now. And if we start looking at what we actually spend versus our financial plan or our budget, we will start now understanding and start controlling our financial destiny and not letting our finances control us. So we're gonna need to put a plan in place so that we can be successful in the future. And the future does not have to be 2013. Remember, the future is always tomorrow. Okay? If you wouldn't mind, hopefully everyone, that you take a copy of the budget that we left on the table. We'd like for you to look at that budget. Look at the components of that budget. Now, every item on that budget may not necessarily apply to you. This is a handout that was on the table. Please take one if you don't have one. So on one side, it shows you all the individual items that are recommendations for you for your budget. For example, your salary, whatever you're bringing in, it doesn't matter how small, how large. If there are any other sources, maybe you have side jobs, maybe you're a consultant, maybe you have your own business. Add that in that top section for income. And then look at the expenses. And some of these will relate to you. If you're renting and you don't have a home, well, of course we know home maintenance won't apply to you. But there are many things that are on this list that should apply to all of us. Savings, retirement, tithing, insurance, medical expenses. So for the most part, many of the items on here are applicable to all of us. So we're asking you today to take this and to look at this and to actually critique it and make it apply to you. Now, there may be some things that are not on here that are special to your circumstance. We would recommend that you put them on here. One of the most important things that we want to make sure you put on here also is your maintenance fee for ESP. Okay? Now, if you turn over the back, what we also did for you is we are recommending that you take that total amount and that you break that down by month. So as you can see, you're going to look at the whole picture, and then you're going to take one bite at a time and look at it on a monthly basis. It's much easier to manage things when you take a bite at a time, as opposed to you taking the entire pie at one time. So, Soros, please take a look at this, and if you need any assistance, feel free to ask Sheila, and I will be more than happy to assist you. Okay? Please do your best to stay within your budget once you establish it, and if you need assistance establishing it, just let us know.
All right, one other thing, Soros, we are going to, you see we're videotaping today. So what's going to happen is that we are going to put this out on YouTube. So for those who are not able to make it today, they can still get all the information. We're also going to put the presentation out on our website, and we will have the budget handout, an Excel spreadsheet that you can download. Okay? Now the way that that spreadsheet works on the back, you'll put your numbers in on that sheet, the budget numbers, and it will then divide it by 12 so that you'll know by month what you should spend. Okay, and it'll help you stay on track. All right, so I know everyone came because they heard I can save $2,013 by convention 2013, right? Yeah. And you want to know how you're going to do that, right? Okay, so here you have a breakdown on what you need to save either by month or by week or by day between now and the start of convention 2013. Now let me say this first. We are not helping you to save so you can spend $2,013 at convention 2013. All right? So if that's what your goal is, this is the wrong workshop for you. The goal is that you will have that money in savings and it will be there. So when you're sitting on the plane, you have that peace of mind of knowing that you have that money in the bank. If you need spending money, then you need to add that to these amounts here. All right? We want you to start to have a cushion of money saved so you can have that peace of mind that we talked about. Okay? So, now, some of you are sitting there right now saying, I can't do that. How many of you are saying that? Okay, good. Don't worry about it. You're the only one being honest. No. Okay? I want to tell you this. If you make at least $25,000, you can do this. If you make at least $25,000, you can do this. And I'm going to say how. All right. First thing, we have to all change the way we think. We have to change the way that we think about our lives, about what we do on a daily basis, before we can start to have that financial freedom. I can tell you that when I was in corporate America, I would skip lunch so I could go shopping. Not because I needed to buy anything, because I like to go shopping. So, and how many of us like to go to the mall just to go window shopping? And then when you go window shopping, how many times do you spend something? Even though you never intended to when you left your house. Okay? So it really is about a change of lifestyle, and you will have withdrawal pains. You're going to have withdrawal pains, but after a while, it doesn't even faze you. But it is actually a change of mindset and a change of lifestyle. One of the main things that you have to start thinking about every time you spend money is, do I want it or do I need it? And you're going to struggle with that. You're going to stand there to kind of say, do I really need this? I do need those pair of shoes, but do you really need those pair of shoes? Okay? So, one of the things you got on the table was a little yellow card. Okay? Does everybody have that little yellow card? All right. Before the end of tonight, I want you to start thinking about what your goal is. Now, your goal may be the $2013. Your goal may be a house. Your goal may be a vacation. Whatever that is, I want you to write that goal on that little card. And then I want you to put that card wherever you put whatever you use to spend money. So that may be your wallet. It may be in your bosom bra, whatever, wherever that is. So whenever you pull out whatever that is to spend money, you have that card there to remind you that maybe you don't want to do that. I do that every year, and I'll show you after if anybody wants to see my little card. They're all torn up because they're in my wallet. And every time I open my wallet, it's just that little reminder for you. Okay? So we're going to give you a lot of little tips. You can use all of them. You can use none of them. But we're going to give you little tips to help you to get to that point where you're saving money. All right. 10%. You need to save minimum 10%. Now, people always say to me, I can't save 10%. But if you go to your job tomorrow and your boss says, I give you two choices. You either get fired or everybody takes a 10% cut. Will you be able to make it with less than 10%? Yes, ma'am, you will. Okay? So, if you make, and this is where I said the $25,000. If you make $25,000 or more in the next 10 months, you will have $2,013. Okay? You will have it. So, for those of you who are not disciplined enough to take that 10%, what I recommend you do on Monday morning is call your HR department and say, I want to change the way I get my paycheck. Have them take the 10% first. Then you never feel it. You never feel the loss of the money. It's just like they increase your taxes. They do it all the time, and you still function, right? This is the same thing. You go to work every day. Why are you going to work every day to pay everybody else but yourself? It makes no sense. Pay yourself first. Okay? Have it deposited in a separate account. And I always tell folks, if you have no discipline, then don't have it put in an account where you have an ATM card. Have it put in an account across town where you have to go in with your savings book. Okay? So if you aren't disciplined, then have ways to discipline yourself. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. All right. Now, this is part of that change of mindset. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more next month when we talk about debt reduction. But what you need to do is, when you're going through your budget that Flo gave you, you want to break out into buckets. Okay? Now, for me personally, I always pay God first. So my first 10% always goes to the tithe. Just like on taking that 10% out for myself, I have the church take the 10% out of my account automatically. And they take it out faithfully. 9 a.m. Monday morning every week. Okay? So, for 10%, this is my recommendation. Okay, you may have a different breakdown. But 10%, the first 10% to God, the next 10% to yourself. And then you have 80% for everything else. 50% should go to pay your bills. Housing, car note, whatever those bills are. And then the last 30% is your spending money, your cash. Now, that spending money may be credit cards, but what I strongly recommend as far as credit cards, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more next month, don't charge what you can't pay off. If you can't pay it off, don't put it on your credit card. All right, that impulse spending that I was talking about, when you just go to the store, you're going to have to stop that impulse spending. And so one of the things that I recommend is that if you go in a store and if you're not going for a specific purpose and you get to the counter and you're questioning, is it a need or a want, put it aside, tell them to hold it till tomorrow. And then if you don't go back, then you didn't really need it. Most stores will hold it for 24 hours, except for groceries. Okay? So tell them to hold it for 24 hours. Flo talked about that writing down. I strongly, if you want to go and do it for a month, do it for at least a week. Write down every single penny you spend. You are going to be shocked. And then the one that is the highest, then we're going to talk, when we talk about investing in money, that's the one you want to invest in. Because if it's that popular for you, it must be something really powerful. Okay? Here's what I do. This is how I stop spending money. I would figure out what my budget was per day for my cash spending, and I wouldn't take any more than that with me when I left my house. So then if I had an impulse, I didn't have the money. So, if my budget is $20 a day, then I only put a $20 bill in my pocket. Then I can't spend it. Okay? Spare change. Now, all of us did this with our kids, right? For our little fundraising project. Well, when Joanne asked me to chair economic development, I started putting this together. I started to practice myself, which was about 6 weeks ago. And I started collecting pennies. And now, when I see the pennies on the ground, I pick them up. I used to walk by them, now I pick them up. And I have $47.51 in 6 weeks. So, one of the things I recommend is to start keeping that spare change. Every time, instead of weighing down your wallet with those coins, every time you get the coins, put them in the bank. And then when you collect them out, take them to the coin star and deposit it in the bank. Set up the automatic savings from checking. So a lot of times we have that impulse with our ATM cards of just going to the ATM, have a certain amount taken from your checking and put in your savings every month. A lot of the banks will do that, like Bank of America and Chase have that feature where you can automatically have a certain amount taken from your checking to your savings. So if you want your 2013, then just have the bank take $200.13 every month. Okay? So we're going to talk a little bit later about, saving for the future. Flo talked about long-term goals versus short-term goals. So we're going to. So I recommend that you have a bucket for a month versus a bucket for long-term retirement. Yes, ma'am.
What's the $5 a
I'm sorry, $5 around. So this was a suggestion that came from Angela Billings. We were at a meeting one day. This is one of the things that she does, which is a great idea. I do something a little similar. But whenever she gets a $5 bill, because fives are not as popular as 10s or 20s. Usually it's a $5 bill is almost like rare. So whenever she gets a $5 bill, she doesn't spend it. She puts it in an envelope, and then when she gets to 100 of those, then she puts, to 20 of those, then she goes to the bank. So, use your own little plan. Like I don't carry cash. So generally speaking, whenever I get a large sum of cash, I just put it in an envelope, and when I get to like 100, then I put it in the bank. But that's one of the little plans that she uses. Like every time she gets a $5 bill, she just puts it in an envelope. She never spends her $5 bills. And they just start to add up. So, if you use that, then you can always ask for $5. Can I have change in fives? Again, it's a mental thing. Whatever it takes for you to get to that point that you start to saving automatically. Okay, 401k. Who has a 401k in this room? All right, this is the best way to start saving money. Most companies, how many of your companies match your 401k or some portion of it? Okay, so if you're getting matching and you're not taking the maximum value of that, you are losing out. That is free money. So if your company is matching 4% of your salary, and you make $25,000, that's $1,000 a year free money. Why are you not taking advantage of that? Everyone should be doing their 401k. The other thing with your 401k is that it is pre-tax dollars, and we're going to talk about, Romney talked about 47% of the country does not pay taxes. All right? So you want to reduce your tax liability as much as possible. So you want to take all the advantages of pre-tax dollars that you can. 401ks are taken out of your paycheck before the government takes money out of your paycheck. So you want to maximize your 401k. This could easily be your 2013 dollars. Going green, you may think, well, how can I save money going green? I will tell you, for my business, when we went green in my office, our expenses went down 50%. 50%. You think about it, not just paper, but toner, electricity, all the things that go along with going green. So going green will save you thousands. All right, so wealth principles. This is what the wealthy people do. Number one, they live within their means. They don't spend what they don't have. They reduce their tax basis. So here's the other thing. For every withholding allowance that you take, so in other words, if you only have 0 withholdings right now, for every withholding allowance that you increase it, you will get an additional 2% in your paycheck. An additional 2%.
Could you repeat that, please?
Yes. For every withholding allowance that you increase, so let's say right now you're taking 0 withholding allowances. If you on Monday tell your HR department to increase it to 1, your take-home pay will increase by 2%. Now, this is why this is important. If you are getting money back on your tax return. If you get money back on your tax return, you understand that you are a lender to the government. You're loaning them money throughout the year. Don't loan them money. Keep that money and put it into savings. So, quick way to get more money in your pocket. Don't go and spend it. Have them take that additional money and put it into your savings account. All right? You want to start for your retirement now. I don't know how long Social Security is going to be around, ladies. All right? So we want to start saving that now. And you want to start educating your children on being financially fit now, instead of waiting till late. All right, we talked about wants versus needs. You need a car, you don't need a BMW. You like a suit, you would love a St. John, but you don't need it. All right, so you have to think about that whenever you go shopping. All right, so you should have 6 months worth of savings in your account. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know if you're going to still have your job. You don't know if your car is going to break down. You don't know if your furnace is going to go out. So you should, remember we talked about that peace of mind. So in order to have that peace of mind, you need to have money in the bank. More than $2,013. Okay? Yes, question?
What's the difference between an emergency fund
Yes.
and then having the 6 to 12?
So the emergency fund is for something that's going to happen. If you own a home, something's going to happen in that home. If you own a car, something's going to happen with your car. So that emergency fund is for literally that, for emergencies. That 6-month fund is just a cushion in case something happens. Okay? Does that make sense? All right, so we talked earlier about loaning the government money and the withholding allowance and the 401k and the pre-tax versus the tax. I just jumped ahead. I'm sorry. All right, and we talked about retirement funds. We're going to talk about that in the spring more. But you want to start building your retirement fund. I don't care if you're 20 or if you're 80. You should start thinking about retirement. Absolutely.
One tip about the college fund, especially if you have, whether it's grandchildren, nieces, nephews, or your own children, if you start saving something as little as $30, $40 a month from when they are an infant, by the time they graduate from high school, you will have minimally $10,000 towards their education. If you make sure you're saving it and put it in a high yielding account, the longer you wait to save for your family, the higher you need to take out more money in order to just have what their expected family contribution, whatever financial aid will say you should pay for that particular year. But if you start, in fact, that's my baby shower gift to everybody. I give them $40, and if I could, I'd open up an account for each of them, but you don't open up an account on their behalf. I give that instead of a gift for, and the advice of how much they can save, starting at the infant stage to toward their students' college education.
Thank you. Yes.
So, I just want to clarify when you said have 6 months of savings.
Yes.
You mean 6 months liquid in your savings account?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about 6 months liquid. So if something happens, if you lose your job, or let's say that, just you want to take a trip, or something happens, or your child breaks a leg, or whatever the case may be, you want 6 months liquid. So remember I said you need to have different buckets. You need to have a short-term bucket, you need to have a mid bucket, and a long-term bucket. So that 6 months that I'm talking about is liquid money. If tomorrow your boss fires you, you want to be able to live comfortably. If tomorrow something happens to your husband or something happens to your child, you want to be able to deal with that without that stress. It's all about having that peace of mind. Okay? All right, eliminating waste. All right, so how many of us have a membership we don't
I
use?
won't talk about it.
How many of us do? Then cancel it. It comes every month. You pay it every month. You know you are not going to that health club. Okay, so get rid of it. How many of us have magazines that we don't read that are collecting dust? Okay, why? Cancel it. Get rid of it. Okay? Utilities. Utility companies will negotiate with you. They will. You have to ask the question. If they say no, say, okay, I'm going to cancel it. Their tune will change significantly. I've been with my cable company since they've been in existence. And I called them up a couple months ago and I said, I'm going to cancel it. And first they said, okay. And they said, well, Ms. Sanders, why are you canceling the account? I said, because this guy over here told me he was going to give it to me cheaper. They automatically lowered it. I mean, just on the spot, lowered it lower than it's been in 20 years. You have to ask the question. Okay? Extended warranties, don't get them, because you know what? When it breaks, you forgot where the warranty is anyway. So why are you paying for it? When they ask, why do you think they offer it? Because it's free money for them. So stop taking those extended warranties. All right, clutter in your home. I'm going to tell you something. And people call me a hoarder, and I'm not a hoarder. But I just always believe that everything's going to come back into existence.
I agree.
But I have been on this mission in 2012 to declutter my house. And you will be amazed at the things you find that you can use. And you will be amazed at the peace of mind that comes over you as you get rid of that clutter in your house. You will start to save money. I will say something else. This is just a little confession about groceries. Don't go to the grocery store hungry. And only buy what you can eat. Okay? Now, I'm not like Debbie Douglas. I don't like grocery shopping. I hate grocery shopping. So I only go once a month. And so I always buy too much food, and then my daughter throws it away. So, you have to go with that mindset of want versus need when you go everywhere, okay? Okay, I'm not in this category, but beauty salons and hair and nails. Is it a want or is it a need? Alright, so when you're doing your budget, just remember, if that's a need, then maybe something else is going to have to go. Okay? Eating out, you know that you spend more eating out than you do eating at home. So you might want to limit that. We've already talked about them all. Okay, so power and compounding. So here's the other thing about savings. So over time, now interest rates are extraordinarily low right now. But there is power in compounding. So over time, that money starts to grow. All right, the liquid funds you want to keep in money markets and in savings accounts, but you want to have that middle bucket where you can take a little bit more risk because you're not going to need it every day. And that money, the goal is for that money to double every 10 years or less. That's the goal on your middle and your long term, is for it to double in 10 years or less. Okay, you don't spend your savings. That's why I said, don't have an ATM. If they give you one, cut it up, put it in the drawer, have a savings passbook, have it in a different state. When I first started, I had one in Kansas City. It was so irritating because they didn't even have it where you could go online and request your money. You had to call them on the phone and they had to ask you 10 questions. It was like, oh, forget it, just keep the money. Okay? All right, so I know this first one probably sounds real logical, but there's some folks that are not going to raise their hand in this room that's done this. Don't quit your job. Unless you have another option. Okay? And how many of us, when we get frustrated, go out and start spending money? Let me just go shopping. Okay, so we're going to have to find some other release. Alright? And some of them are not going to like this, but these little vices of gambling and shopping and drinking and all of those spend money. We want to save our money. Okay? Alright, so here is the deal. We're going to post this out on our website because we're videotaping this. We're going to put it on YouTube and we're going to post it on our website. We're going to post it on Facebook. We're going to post it on all of the media. Because our goal is that we want to touch 2,013 people before January 1, 2013. And so we want everyone in this room to tell 3 people. I know it says this on this next page. It's going to say tell 1, 2, 3, or 5. I want you to tell 3. The first person I want you to tell is another soror in Chicago alone. The second person I want you to tell is another soror from another chapter. And the third person I want you to tell is someone that's in the community. We want to start to change the mindsets of everyone. And it's not just about Chicago alone. We want every chapter across the country to catch on to this. All right, and so it starts with you. So everybody in this room all of a sudden is on economic development for the next 12 months. Okay? So can everybody promise to do that? Yes. We want you to tell somebody. Tell them to go to the website. It'll be about, I don't know, we'll find out about a week. We'll have it posted out there so they can go and see it. We'll have the presentation out there. We'll have the budget out there. And we want everyone to be empowered to save a minimum. That's the minimum sorors. A minimum of $2,013. So does everybody think they can do that? Is there anybody that doesn't? All right. If you don't, or if you have any questions, please feel free to see Flo and I. Go back 2 slides. I start there. Next month, we're going to talk about reducing your debt. All right. So, we talked about savings, but it's going to be a journey. We're going to take you from starting the savings to starting the business in the next 10 months. So everybody tell 3 people and be back here next month at 5:30. Thank you, Source.